three terms have been repeatedly told since morning. Nivritti, Pravritti. I just got retired, and my retirement was again being introduced now by again putting a shawl and etc. So Pravritti made me to come here, but I was reminded of the Nivritti again, which I got very recently in June. Anyway, that's a different factor. I think most of the things which I wanted to tell, I think Professor Mahadevan has already covered in the morning, so that you can be rest assured that some more time you can get in resting, because I will finish it fast. Okay, so that's because there is no point in repeating whatever that has been told. But one thing that comes to my mind is that we're talking about Shravana, Manana, etc. So from that point of view, whatever the point that he has said, Shravana has taken place. Probably now, if Manana can take place on those ideas, probably today evening and tomorrow, Nidhyasana happens, probably the purpose of this particular workshop can be more meaningful. So with that, I think I will start the presentation. So management education, why Bharatiya management education is required? Is there a different perspective for Bharatiya management? Is the background of that. So growth and development of economy based on optimal utilization of the resources. So that was the primary idea. So whatever the resources that are there, we have to make use of that particular resources optimally. So need for formal education in management science was felt then. So when different resources are there, how can we make use of the optimal utilization of the different types of resources? And that is where the need for a formal education in management came in. And hence management education, research in management gained the impetus. Theories, models, paradigms have been developed in the field that have helped the organization to deal with the problems and grow towards optimal utilization of resources, thus contributing to the development of economy. So management, the contribution of management as an applied science became a more relevant, that's where management education became more relevant. And the Indian academia, also being influenced by this global trend, has established innumerable number of institutions to offer management courses. So there are different management institutions that are there, and these different management institutions have started, the paradigms and the curriculums and models that were based on the West, and then it's been practiced here. Now, while there is a need for the Bharatiya and alternative perspective to management education, the observation by the working group in 2011 observed that there is a negligible debate on curriculum and pedagogy and innovation in management sciences that is taking place. So, what is the curriculum that is being developed? What basis? What is the relevance of it? So, this was one of the observations. And lack of inherent capabilities of the institutions to address the evolving needs of the various stakeholders. I think one point that is being discussed about the relevance of the culture component is concerned. Now, having taken that particular cultural component when we are designing our curriculum, when we are doing our methodology component is concerned, that was the second observation that is made. And the failure of replications of Western models due to differences in the work culture. Now, probably we talked in terms of earlier, we used to say 9 to 5, but 9 to 5 has become 24/7. And when 24/7 has come in, what exactly has happened? In BPO, with this, BPO sector coming in, now your job also became 24/7. Now we, in our culture, we have every day is a celebration. Every day there is an event that needs to be celebrated. Now, what is the component? Let us say, for example, the example that comes to my mind is, let us say, Holi. How Holi has to be played. Now, if an employee, this private sector doesn't have a holiday on Holi, so they have to work. And when they have to go for work, now there is already Holi cannot be played at all. HR thought that why not we give opportunity at the workplace itself to play Holi. So what happens now? Work, play Holi, go home. Now, this is one component. Now, can we play Holi with whom? That's one question. Second question, if I have to go, I'm in a second shift or a third shift, I enter the workplace, HR asks, play holy Baba, then go to workstation. Is it really possible? Now, this is one of the components. A simple thing in terms of the culturally I am sensitive. HR says I am culturally sensitive. I allow you to play holy, I will do all that. But individually, can I perceive that particular component? So, many of the methodologies, many of the models that are there, if it is, the Western models are used, it may not work at all. So, that's one of the factors. So, theories and models are more generic applicable to a large majority of the organizations. Now, when you talk in terms of pedagogy or the theory development is concerned, now probably in the next slide we were talking about whether, when we talk in terms of research, we say what is research? We call it in terms of empirical, we talk in terms of database, we talk in terms of quantification. With all that, what are we trying to do? We are trying to say this is universal. Now, how far it is universal is a question that we will ask slightly later on. So, theories and models are more generic, applicable to a large majority of organizations. Contribution of unorganized sector is more, which is individualistic. When we talk in terms of Indian economy is concerned, now we have a lot of unorganized sector. When you say unorganized sector, the generic paradigm which we talk about may not be applicable to the single organization is concerned. So, we are dealing with individual cases and which may not be applicable to a larger majority as that is being done in the West is concerned. Introspection of the ancient model could provide an alternative strategies for effective management. Is there a way to look back and then see are there any alternative methodology that is there? Now, when we talk in terms of education, management education is concerned, the ultimate aim of education and research is to understand the reality and finding the truth. Now here comes the question, what do you mean by reality? How do you define reality? And this is where I think Professor Bhauk also talks about, I think, fortunate that both of us come from psychology background, and that's where we come to the question of reality. What is objective reality and what is subjective reality? Right? So when we say subjective reality, what is meaning to me, what is truthful to me, that is becomes more meaningful to me in handling my issues or my, let's say, the problems are concerned. When you say objective reality, this is where when you talk in terms of empirical research, right, we talk in terms of significance level, 0.05, 0.01. Now, that 0.05, what happens here? I think I'm reminded of one of the, let's say, that was studies that was done about, the study was about the pre-birth or the past life. Whether I have, there was in Nimans long time back, some 2-3 decades ago, conducted a study on rebirth. There are a lot of children who say that, I am not this, I am, etc. A band of scientific psychologists, psychiatrists, etc., went and studied 100, let us say 100 cases. 97 cases was a failure. What is the conclusion drawn? It is a hoax. It's not reality at all. But what about those 3? What are the parameters which you use to prove, the test which you have used, all those tests, those 3 people passed. Right? What does the quantification say? The quantification says 97 did not prove, so it is not reality at all. So, when you say reality, what is subjective reality, what is objective reality? Probably when we talk in terms of Indian or the Bharatiya, we give more emphasis on the subjective reality rather than the objective reality. So that's one factor we are talking about. Now, the second component when we talk in terms of pedagogy is concerned, what is the purpose of education? Is it teaching? Is it learning? There is a difference between teaching and learning. Okay, so the role of a teacher, role of a learner also tend to differ with regard to that. Are we really teaching? If we are teaching, what are we teaching? And to whom we are teaching? Now, this is another component discussion. So, when we talk in terms of pedagogy of teaching itself, we are talking about Gurukula and a lot of other components that are concerned. Now, I'm not talking about those systems has to be brought in. But can we think in terms of what used to happen when teaching had to take place? Okay, so that's where we talk in terms of related to that, whether our teaching should be at an individual level or at a mass education. When we talk in terms of mass education, I am not bothered about each individual's strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so the syllabus is there, the syllabus has to be taught, and the criterion is set, and that particular criterion has to be fulfilled. Whereas, whether that individual really learns that and adopts it is a factor. Okay, so that's where the problem comes in. Normally when I talk about this particular aspect, one of the things that comes to my mind is that we have a specialization in clinical psychology. A person is supposed to know about symptoms and diagnosis and therapeutic technique and etc. So there is a golden medalist in clinical psychology, and that person happens to be the best example for pot full of worries. Now, what do you mean by that? We are teaching, right? The person is a gold medalist in clinical psychology. Tell about which is the textbook, page number, so and so can tell. But that person is the best example for pot full of worries. Now, what do you mean by that? So that means whether the individual is able to learn. Okay, so this is a factor that we need to take into consideration. From that point of view, learning is sequential and developmental. Now, if we talk in terms of, I think we use the word Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, or one of the component would be repeated component. Even you say, for example, mantra, you say. Okay, what is the purpose of that? As you grow, it gives a reorientation to that. Probably in the linguistic component also they say. I remember, some of the literary people, being in the university, we used to travel together, and then periodically one of the literary person used to say, "Have you read that?" I said, "I have read that." After 5 years again, he will ask, "Have you read that?" And he said, "Why should I read again?" Then I said, "You read again and say," I think, I remember, that was one of the well-known Kannada literary, Sumatindra Nadi. One of the famous, work of his is Dampatya Gita, telling about the relationship between husband and the wife. So when he was in, exactly after marriage, in the recent years of his marriage, he had written that particular component. And then he used to say, "Read again, it will give you a different meaning to you." Right? As you pass through different stages of life, that particular component which you read gives you a different meaning to you. As you go through your life experiences, the same scripture, the same stanza gives you a different meaning. That is where learning also can happen. And that is a factor that we can look into consideration. Now, these are the different types of pedagogy that we used to see from ancient Greece to the, let us say, 4th and 8th century, and different components that were there, and how the purpose of education tend to change from period to the period is being given here. Okay. Now I will come to some of the pragmatic issues that we need to take into consideration when we talk in terms of introducing Bharatiya management as a course, as a researcher, and as a course is concerned. So the first component, which we have already talked about, the linguistic factor. I think Bauji also talked about this. Professor Mahadevan also talked about it. Now, when you say scripture, from where do we read this particular scripture? One of the interesting and one of the challenging factor about our ancient scripture is also, I think Professor Mahadevan was also saying, in terms of brevity. Right? When you talk in the brevity, we talk in terms of sutras and we talk in terms of bhashyas. The problem comes in there. Sutra is fine, but when the interpretation of that sutra changes from one individual to another, the confusion comes in. With whom, whose bhashya we have to accept. That's the factor which we have to take into consideration, and that's where the linguistic factor play an important role. Can we read? Can we understand Sanskrit? Can we get a meaning of that particular component? I think Professor Mahadevan gave a very beautiful example of what can happen if a wrong interpretation of a particular text or a particular stanza is given. So that's one factor. The second factor is also beautifully brought about. That is where the contextual reference. Now, context is in terms of time and the space. The way in which, the time in which that particular concept is being used, in which context that particular concept is used, is an important factor. So, there are several concepts which had a relevance at that particular point of time. There is no point in blindly adopting those concepts here if it is not relevant to this particular time and this particular context is concerned. The second factor is that. The third one, importance of experiential and subjective factors versus empirical and objective factors. Now, this is a factor which I had already talked about. Now, when 2005, I happened to be the chairman of the department, and being the chairman, you have some autonomy in bringing about some changes in the syllabus and etc. So, I introduced a paper on Indian psychology. So, the problem with Indian psychology was that who has to teach, what has to be taught, which should be the textbook. So this is where the problem comes in. Okay, so everything, people, and the problem there would be, when I introduce this particular paper, at what what level? Now, say, I think Bauji also was talking about, by the time we think in terms of what psychology has to say, what management has to say, all our theoretical framework is being bombarded by the Western system. And at a cognitive level, our thinking is in terms of that. Now, what will happen now? When you introduce a new concept, that's where the problem comes in. So, that's a factor that we need to take into consideration. And again, another component now in our education system, So, when you say Bharatiya management paper has to be introduced, whether it has to be introduced a hardcore or a softcore or an open elective, now this is another factor that we need to take into consideration when you have to introduce a paper. Now, we should be very clear. Okay, whether it should be, if it is a hardcore, how many of them have to take? Okay, now these are some of the issues that we need to take into consideration. The preparation of the teachers. Now, if I have to teach a particular paper, do I know this particular component? Thanks to our system, thanks to our parenting also, that's where teaching is becoming very easy now. In the sense, everybody is the proud owner of the textbook. If not the original, Google is there. Okay, so what happens is nobody asks a question also. So from that point of view, you can take anything. I think that's what Professor Madhavan was also saying. Take a text and leave it to the students. But what will happen if a genuine student asks a question? Are you able to give a convincing answer to them? If a major question is concerned, that is where how to prepare the teachers in teaching Bharatiya management is another question that we have to deal with. And what is the preparation of the students? What is the mindset of the students when we try to introduce that is another factor that we need to take into consideration. So we have these different types of sources that we can look into. Vedas, Upanishads, Ethics, Puranas, Panchatantras, Jatakas, and then there are individual success stories. There are a number of such things, right from the ancient to the modern. There are different lessons that we can learn from our scriptures, from our case studies, and etc. Then can we make use of that, bring it into our curriculum is a factor. How do we do it is a factor that we need to take into consideration. So these were some of the methodology that was used in the ancient system. So Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, dialogue with questions and answers, narrations and episodes, similes, metaphors, illustrations and symbolism. This is an important component. So as I said, brevity, how do you make a meaning out of it? Contextually, if you can relate it, I think that becomes more meaningful. And the management itself, the success stories or the failure stories, how we can bring it into our, the stream of formal education is a factor that we need to take into consideration. So, last slide is about when we say research in Bharatiya management, there are certain biases that can come in the researcher. It may be biases with regard to the research guide as well as the researcher also. So what are the biases? One would be whether the purpose of research is to compare Eastern and the Western and say Eastern is good or not. That's why the glorifying one of the, let us say, the culture. So that should not be the objective of the research. Negating, there is nothing new in the West, everything is there in our Ramayana, Mahabharata. So it's not that particular aspect. And need for integrated approach or the triangulation becomes an essential factor. So if we can bring about the multi-node research and need for action research. So when we talk in terms of a problem in any field of management, can we find solution to that particular problem should be the focus. Probably if we can look into this, I think the purpose of this workshop would be meaningful. Thank you very much.